Welcome back. As we said earlier that we are going to talk about the UN Climate Change Summit that is currently taking place in Paris, and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is attending, and he delivered an important speech yesterday where he called for a just and clear agreement for facing climate change. And to shed more light on this issue, I'd like to be joined here in the studio with Dr. Khaled El Sayed, environmental and climate change expert. Good morning, doctor.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, a very important event is taking place in Paris right now. Several heads of state are gathering to discuss this very important topic. If you can shed more light on the significance of this summit in light of the climate changes that are taking place around us.
Okay. First of all, I am very thankful for this kind invitation to discuss one of the most important global events. Not one, it's the most important global event exactly. And this started yesterday and will continue for the next 10 days. Yesterday, Mr. President Sisi gave a speech in behalf of Africa as a whole, and it was very important speech, and it's considered in the first panel with the speech of President of the United States and the President of Russia. And the importance of this speech comes from three issues. First one is he was representative of the Arab Republic of Egypt, and it's a great issue. The second, he was a representative of a whole continent of Africa. He was a representative for 69 countries. He was a representative for 1/4 of the world population. So it was very, very important speech. Actually, it was very short because it's allowed for each leader to 3 minutes only to express his feeling about climate change. But it was very concentrated, and he put his hand directly in the issue when he said that Africa is the least producer for greenhouse gas emission in the world, but is the most affected by the harmful impact of climate change. And also
I believe that the French president made a very important remark. He said that climate change and terrorism are related.
Exactly. And not only the French president, also the American president, who said that America as the most economics and industrial country in the world, it's also responsible about a great part of the global warming also. So I think there is a big mobilization in the world against the harmful impact of climate change, and this is 21st round of this meeting, and I hope that we reach to good agreement and accepted from all the parties, because we have many agreements in the past, but most of them not fully implemented. For example, industrial countries has a previous commitment to reduce their emission for harmful greenhouse gases, but the actual practice is not occurred. Also, they committed to give more fund and aid for developing country to cope with the problem or impact of climate change, but it's also not implemented as well.
Yes, and also, sir, if you can tell us more about the agreed on plans, because I believe there was also a plan for 2020, if you could shed more light on that.
Exactly. Mr. President Sisi indicated to a specific report done by the United Nations environmental groups, where it's stated or indicated that African countries need annually $12 billion to cope with the problem or the impact of climate change. And this is annual required until 2020. And after that, maybe this is increased gradually. And for all developing country as a whole, it's required $100 billion yearly. to cope with the problem of climate change. This is for African countries and less developed countries and small island. And he mentioned that it should be this amount, it should to be included and to have a commitment of all industrial countries in any agreement in the future. And according to this view or opinion about the sum of aid may be transferred from industrial and developed country to a developing country, Africa put two initiatives. The first one is to enhance their producer of energy from clean and renewable sources, and a second one is to work together to enhance the process of fighting the impact of global change.
Excuse me, sir. We want to shed some light on the rerun of the second phase of parliamentary elections, and joining us over the phone, our correspondent Nermeen Abdurrahman from Talha, Daqahliya. Good morning, Nermeen. Nermeen, can you tell us about the voting process in the early hours of the day?
Daqahliya is one of the most populous governorates all over Egypt, Greater Cairo, and here we do have 11 constituencies. As usual, procedures are taken since
Monday morning as security personnel, whether from the army or police, received the headquarters of the polling stations all over the governorate. And as we knew and as we had our contact with the security and with the officials here, no more than 5 to 10 minutes were some of the voting stations late to receive the voters. But we do have another story, as in El Mansoura city, there were some appeals which were introduced by some of the candidates here, and unfortunately till late at night many of the voters of Daqahliya did not know if they are going to go to vote in this constituency or no. And we just knew it late at night yesterday. Even the authorities, the official authorities here were urged or were forced, to be accurate, to have vehicles with loudspeakers just to tell the voters in Daqahliya that they should go to the voting centers in El Mansoura, as the court refused the appeal by some of the candidates to cancel the first phase or the first stage of the second phase of the parliamentary elections in Mansoura, and that the runoff is the rerun is going to go as scheduled before. To you, Shereen.
Our correspondent from Talha, Daqahliya, thank you for your feedback, and we'll get back to you throughout the day to know more about the voting process. And back to you, Doctor. Can you tell us more about, thank you, Nermeen. Can you tell us more about the challenges that face Egypt, the climate changes and environmental changes that face Egypt?
Of course. Egypt suffered from one of the most impacted countries from the climate change in the world. And most of the studies indicate that the temperature of the world will be increased from 3 to 4 degrees by the mid of this century. And this impact will raise if the sea level raised by half a meter only, about 15% of the land of Alexandria will be dropped out under the water, and this will affect the agriculture, tourist and industrial sector of activities in this area, and also maybe force 1.5 million persons from this area to migrate to down inside the delta. This is one of the most important impact of climate change on the coastal of Egypt. But for the Africa as a whole, we can see African countries have many resources that, if it's good mobilized, will be be a good example to how to deal with the impact of climate change. I give a small example. If we're looking for the river like Congo River.
Yes.
we will
Also, the
find
Nile River is facing many threats.
Exactly, and
Yes.
you can find that annually there is 1,000 billion square meter of water go to the ocean without any benefits. You can imagine that 1/3 of this amount of water is enough to produce energy for Africa as a whole.
Yes.
1/3 of this amount of water is enough to eliminate the thirst and droughts in all African lands. So African countries have many sources. If it's good mobilized by financial aid and technological aid, I think maybe cope with the problem of climate change.
So what other challenges our country is facing, sir, in light of these changes?
Dramatic change in climate we face for the last summer is very high temperature. It's not exceed before.
Yes, it was
and
unprecedented.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
And in the beginning of this winter, we found that amount of rain is very high in coastal size, and we see what is happening in Alexander. All these are emphasizes of the impact of climate change.
Actually, we are now in the beginning of December, and still there is no winter.
Exactly,
So this
exactly.
is very weird.
What is happening from about 3 weeks or 4 weeks before, it's not the starting winter yet.
Yes.
I hope there is no more dramatic event will be occurred, but all these are indicator of there is something is occurred in the climate all over the
global
world.
warming. It's
All over
global
the
warming.
world. And also the most important thing is the great impact of climate change occurred as the increase of emissions,
Yes.
which is produced by the industrial countries. And this increases the temperature of the world. And consequently, the sea level rise. And we have many islands in the Caribbean will be supposed to be drop out under the water. And many area of the coastal of North Africa, from Morocco to Egypt, many area will be also dropped under the water according to this
How long
increase.
will it take for this to happen?
Actually, each country has until now a separate procedure or policies to cope with this. But what we need is a global policies. The most important one in this field is lie on the industrial countries. The burden, it should to reduce the level of global warming or greenhouse gas emission to the half, 50%. What is mentioned by President Sisi yesterday, he mentioned that the greenhouse emission should to reduce to the level that increase the temperature by 1.5 degree only. Because all the studies indicate that the temperature, if we continue at the same level of global warming now, the temperature will increase by 4 to 5 degrees. So the target is to reduce the greenhouse emission to the level that increase. The temperature will increase, no way. But to increase to the minimum level which may to reduce the impact of this climate change.
Also, sir, speaking about the parliament and the elections, don't you believe that since we might first have a parliament in place, that they would draft laws related to the environment and protecting the environment and reducing the harmful greenhouse gas emissions?
I think yes, it's very important issue to look for a specific law for environmental and climate change in Egypt to prevent. And I think also there are some policies in Egypt to produce 25% of energy from clean and renewable sources, which are solar and wind sources in Egypt. So I think this approach will reduce the level of emission from Egypt. And I think the emission it's produced by Egypt or developed country, it not exceed 5% of the global emission, which is 95% is produced by industrial countries. So the burden of reducing this lie on industrial countries more than developing countries.
Yes.
Exactly.
So what is the message behind Egypt's selection by the African countries to speak on their behalf in this summit?
Egypt now is the president of the African group for environmental and climate change issue. And also Egypt play a good role in this way, starting from the revolution of 30 June, because the relation of Egypt with African countries, it started to be, as usual, adopted again, and Egypt started to play a good role in leading Africa in many ways, in trade, in fighting global climate change, and in many economic and social activities. You know, many of health, what's called groups of persons go to African countries to submit their aid to these countries. So I think it will be a good issue. It was good decision that Egypt to be representative of whole Africa in this summit.
So in your opinion, it's time for Egypt to rely on other sources of energy that do not pollute the environment, like other renewable energy sources?
Exactly. And what is the start? From 2 days ago, the Prime Minister opened a new station for producing energy from wind. And, exactly. And also there is ambitious plan for solar energy. Yes. And I think, and I mentioned that there is a strategy to change the combination of energy production in Egypt to be 25 of this energy produced by clean and renewable sources.
So, sir, Egypt will begin in 2017 to rely on natural gas as a source of energy. As you know that Al-Zohr well was discovered in the Mediterranean Sea. So yes. To what extent this can help energy problem in Egypt, natural gas?
We know that natural gas is one of the most clean sources of producing energy in the world. And it's come in the third rank after solar and wind.
Yes.
So I think this big discovery of gas in the Mediterranean Sea will help Egypt to change her plan or her map of production of energy to be more depending on the natural gas than coke or other sources.
Yes, unfortunately we're running out of time, but we really do appreciate your insight, Dr. Khaled El Sayed Hassan, environmental and climate change expert. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And dear viewers, short break, and then we'll be back to resume the remaining segments of The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.